I've been campaigning on climate change. I was a forest campaigner when I started. I've been campaigning on climate change since 2003. And what stood out to me, 2003 was the big European heat wave. So I think that they estimate now about 70,000 people died from that event. We'd had the coral bleaching events in 97, and I just went, wow, like if this is the start of global warming, like what we were taught at uni in the sort of late 80s was that sort of, this sort of stuff would be happening in 100 years time, maybe 50 years time, 100 years time, halfway through the century. And then there it was in 97, there it was in 2003, and I just went, it's here, it's here right now. And if this is happening already, it's already unacceptable.
And that's the thing about what we don't get
level.
is that these lines, these graphs that we see with temperatures and the rest of it, that we think they're linear. But hey, there's something called exponential curves. Where it takes a long time, they go a little, and then suddenly they rise like that. And that's what we're seeing, isn't it, with temperature? Suddenly, if we zoom out and see it in a 10,000-year perspective, the curve just looks amazing.
Yeah, well,
in a negative
scary.
way.
Scary.
How it's going up.
Yes, and again and again, historically, we don't even have an analog for it. Like we're faster than any time, as far as we understand, in the history of the Earth, in terms of the rate of change that we're doing now. So we can't even look back.
What I want to know is
years and know what's happened. So
we need to talk about what do we do about it, because you've been in this space for so long. I want to hear some solutions. I want to hear something that we can take with us when this sustainable hour is over.
So where we've had a big win, well, we think it's a big win. We've been working to save the planet. That's about since 2013 now, and before that, Beyond Zero Emissions, various other projects. But the idea was get political, get active, get out there, door knock, leaflet, get as much of awareness around what we call the climate emergency, a safe climate. Be honest about the threat, be honest about the solutions. And we know that people, if you say we've got a serious threat and you give them weak solutions, people turn off, right? So we know we've got to be on it. And if you don't tell them it's serious, they're not going to care. It's that simple. They're going to be more worried about their whatever, going to the movies or having a drink or paint off the house or whatever's concerning them. So we campaigned on that, but we worked out, we got to a point where we realised it was almost going backwards. It did go backwards from state and federal government. It was like when Rudd failed to implement the trading scheme, the ETS, and let it go. Took this bubble out of the whole movement. Like there's just like bang, and people on the left, and it's like it just dissipated this energy, and we haven't recovered from that yet. We're not back to that energy levels yet. But we thought, well, we're not going to get anywhere at state, we're not getting anywhere at federal, and why not focus on local government? So we ran at local government, we ran at state, we ran at federal, all the time exposing our local communities where we ran to those issues. And where I live, which is Darebin, which covers state seats like Northcote, Preston, federal seat of Batman, which I think's changed its name some point soon, Cooper or something. We basically succeeded in creating an educated population. And then at the last local government election, myself and Bryony Edwards ran for Save the Planet. And what happened, we said to the other candidates, we said, look, this is a climate emergency. Our kids' future's at stake. The ecology's at stake. We believe in maximum protection for human and non-human life. We hope you do. This is what we think a council can do. This is the context for a council of why a council can play in this space. And the elections happened. A progressive majority won. 4 Greens, few independents, ex-Labor sort of thing. We got a progressive majority. And we went back to those same candidates and we said, would you like to do it? And Stephanie was the first person I spoke to, a Greens candidate, and she said yes. And after years of people saying no, I almost fell off my seat. Philip Sutton cried. It was fantastic. And since then, we've been working to get a climate emergency response at local government. And there's an advisory committee. There's the first paid climate emergency staff member, Tiffany Harrison, who's a former Save the Planet campaigner, worked up in Byron Bay on Zero Emissions Byron. Has come back to do this role. And so we've got a climate emergency response for the first time rolling out at a government level. And doing that at Darebin